my computer system, people have told me I sound like I have a stroke when I try to talk on it. So this was not an option to do from my house. So getting started, what we're talking about today is dividing plants. And as you can see, we have a little PowerPoint presentation. I think I right-click this. Is this right, Gary?
Left click.
Left click, okay, to go through the presentation. So the primary purpose, of course, as you can read, is the division of plants is to rejuvenate them. So it's another thing to do while you're working in your garden. You know, you're reading and doing other things while you're out there too, but dividing is part of it. So dividing is a matter of digging up plants, prying them apart with your hands, spades, sometimes a knife, an axe, dangerous, but some type, and then replanting them in new locations or new holes. So perennials that grow from the crown and they clump together as they get larger, they can decline in vigor and have fewer flowers. So if you wait too long, the flowering can actually stop altogether. So how many plants you decide to dig up depends on the size and the vigor of the original plant, and then what to do with them is, of course, you have to have a place to put them. So either another bed prepared if you want to extend your garden, or you can divide them and share them with friends or other master gardeners. So what can be divided? Plants with large clumps, growing points, different things like that. They need to be able to survive as an individual plant. So these are some examples of clumping forms of plants. So hostas and sedum, you can plant ajugas, different things like that. Those can be divided. They break up neatly and they're pretty easy to grow. So, and usually can be divided any time of year. As a general rule, divide summer and fall blooming plants in the spring, and spring blooming plants after they bloomed or in the fall. And don't cut a plant apart while it's blooming. Some other rhizomes we'll talk about a little bit later. Rhizomes, bulbs, and tubers, those kinds of plants can be divided. General tips on dividing is before the plant starts to look bad. So you dig at the drip line, divide in cool weather, keep the roots cool and moist, add some compost. Division should be at least or no more than 25% of the original. If it's blooming, give it extra water. Keep only in the healthiest places. So saturate the soil where you plan to divide the plants. Since we're doing it usually in the spring or the fall is the best time to divide plants, usually the Pacific Northwest helps us with saturating the soil while we're doing this. So follow the drip line of the plant, and kind of a messy time of year to be dividing and replanting, but like I say, if you can do it with the sky helping you saturate the ground, that works well. So have a new planting area arranged, dig the holes and make them wide enough to accommodate roots, the roots of the plants that you're dividing. If the soil is too dry, wait a day or two before dividing. Cut the plant to about 6 inches from the ground. Pry or dig out in one big chunk and then divide it as you need to. Don't allow the root ball to dry out. For smaller plants, you might need to divide them with your hands. Split them apart to do that, or use a serrated knife. Shake off loose dirt or soil, and sometimes the plants can actually have a dead part in the center, so make sure that you don't plant that part. Keep it separated. So some plants that survive a plant list in the shade, so different plants, as you can see a list of those. These are also shade plants that can divide after blooming or taking the cuttings off the rhizome section. Bergenia, I actually had some deer help me with those this spring. They just, they were looking through my garden for different things and they just pulled them out by the root for me. So it was pretty easy to take those, and nice deer. I didn't think they liked Bergenia, but I guess they do. These are other plants that you can divide in the spring, and other examples of those in different colors. Hellebores. It says division is challenging and best done in the early fall, or if fall at all. Hellebores are something that I really like. I have a lot of them in my garden in different colors. And I find these little, plenty of little seedlings going all the time. So those are pretty easy now for me to start. So if anybody would like some starts on those, I do have several that I could dig up and share with you. Hostas, best time to do those are in the spring. So when everything is just popping up. Hostas improve with age, so if you want to share them with other people, that would be a good time to do that. Plants in the sun, so a list of different plants in the sun. I think these Gary, are these available after, so people can take these down if they want to? As far as, so this presentation will be available at a later time. Asters, now asters would be a good one. You can see this picture has a shovel in it, so that's a good one to dig out in clumps and just divide them however you can, actually chop them to make the asters grow. One of the things that when you're dealing with plants like this, you also need to know the root groups. So different 5 basic root types. So before you divide, it's best to determine what type you have, whether it's a clump, whether it's a surface root, whether it's underground running, tap roots, or woody roots. So that lets you know how to proceed with the dividing. And at the end of the presentation, I also have some websites that I used in order to prepare this presentation. So you can, I've got the website address on there, or I can actually tell you how I accessed those, so you can make a note on them too. Bearded iris are best divided in the late summer. So again, that's, I clip mine back and actually dig them out and divide them like that in order to replant them somewhere. And I usually do it when it's dry, so it's really kind of hard sometimes to get them out, but they seem to flourish once I get them transplanted or once I get them put somewhere else. So other examples of iris that you may have in your garden. Fall is the best time to divide peonies. So this gives you a little bit more information about dividing peonies and how to do it. One thing to be aware of is the bottom where it says transplant with the buds no more than 1 to 2 inches below the surface of the soil, because basically if you plant them too deep, you may not get flowers. Food crops. So you can divide food crops too. So rhubarb is a good example of how to divide that in the fall or the spring. Strawberries, a good example on strawberries is how to transplant those. Raspberries, again, just with the root and plant the raspberry. Lilacs. I transplanted a bunch of my lilacs one time from the little suckers that grow on them. So And don't forget other food crops like your herbs, because you could divide those of like your culinary herbs such as sage or thyme, oregano or marjoram or any of those. You can divide those and make a new bed of herbs too. I talked about the websites of where I got this. This is a WSU website that I got a lot of information from. This particular article also has 3 pages of plant names and when to divide. So very easy to just pull that up. And I actually found these websites too just by going to my browser, and I typed in WSU dividing perennials. And there's quite a few websites on there, but this is one that came right up. So I'll give you a little bit of time if you're trying to write it down. It is a long string in order to access a website. But again, if you go WSU the dividing perennials, that is one that comes up pretty easily. So another website for Oregon State University. And this particular one has 10 points of dividing plants and the different root types that they have. So again, very easy. I went to Oregon State University and typed in dividing perennials, and this is another one that came up. And the last website I did, it was another Oregon State that I found. This has some nice pictures on it too, but it was done by the Extension Service and on Oregon Live. So, and this one has a list of common perennials and how often to divide them. So again, divisions don't have to be done see if I've got a lot of papers here, as you can probably tell. Some of them on this particular website that divide every 1 to 3 years, or every 3 to 5 years, or divide every 5 to 10 years. So that it has a list of different timelines on different plants. For instance, Shasta daisies, corabels, bee balm, hollyhock, fountain grasses, all of those are in the divide every 1 to 3 year time frame. So I don't know how if people have questions, I'll try and answer, so you can.
Just go ahead and have, at this point,
I'll let you do that. Okay.
I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Oh, I'm used to it with this.
Sorry.
There we go.
Okay.
So, questions? Please speak up. No questions?
I have one. The little suckers on the lilacs, all you have to do is just gently pull them away from the major lilac. And will some roots come with it, or do you have to dig it up?
I dug mine.
Okay.
So yeah, it's pretty easy in my old plants anyway. My old lilacs said I had to find the suckers, and I just dug them up, and I actually just went and replanted them. I did it in the fall.
Okay. And will it remain the same color as the mother plant? Always?
I believe it will. I can't answer that for sure because mine haven't bloomed yet. It's been 2 or 3 years since I've done it, and I understand with lilacs it can take a while before they actually bloom again. Okay. They're still pretty small.
All right. Thank you.
Other questions? Speak up.
I put the links that you shared on the chat. If anybody wants them, they can copy them from the chat or open them up onto their browser from the chat, and that way they'll have them.
Thank you, Alice. I appreciate that.
I have a huge ornamental grass that's been in the same spot for, somewhere between 20 and 30 years. and I would kind of love to spread that out and I don't know, soak it, and then go after a corner at a time. I certainly, maybe dynamite, I might be able to divide it up adequately, but
We have a bed in the demo garden that is grasses, and some of those hadn't been there quite that long.
yeah.
But what was done was basically with a shovel or some
Axe.
sharp big instrument, even an axe, you could probably carefully, maybe not you.
Yeah, maybe a chainsaw.
Yeah. Anyway, something like that to actually split them apart, and you can break them up. You could probably break it up into several smaller pieces and, you know, get them to grow like that. But yeah, grasses can take a little bit of determination in order to get them out of the ground. But once you do, you can put them other places and it should grow.
Okay. Yeah.
I have a question. I'm going to go back to the lilacs.
To the lilacs, did you say?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And my question is, I have 2 lilacs in my yard. One of them, I'm pretty sure, is what I would think of as a hybrid, because it's called Persuasion. It's 2 colors. It's beautiful. It does have a wonderful smell. And I've had it at least 10 years, and it's never produced a sucker. Whereas when I moved here, there's a very, very old lilac in the backyard. It's very tall, produces a million suckers, and I've actually sold many of them. So my question is, I think the older one is probably an heirloom. It was a lavender type colored flowers, very, very fragrant, small flowers, versus the other one that I have that's 2 colors, 2-tone. It produces the larger flowers and doesn't smell as sweet. So I'm wondering, do you know if it makes a difference if it's a hybrid or an heirloom as to whether or not it produces suckers?
I don't know that.
Yeah, okay.
The ones that I took the suckers off of them, again, are the real old lilac bushes that have been there for a long, long time.
Yes.
And it's the real light purple flowers.
That's what I have. That's the same. Maybe it's just the variety of the lilac. I don't know.
But the other one I have that is the 2-tone, and I don't remember the name of it right now, but it's a darker purple with white edging along the.
That's what mine is too.
And that has not produced any suckers for me either.
Yes. I'm beginning to wonder if we're sharing the same yard.
Maybe.
No, mine's the same thing. It's got darker, it's ringed with a white, and then it's darker in the middle. And it is a beautiful lilac. Fortunately, it does have a wonderful smell. But the older lilac is so much more fragrant, and it's just as beautiful, Well, thank you.
I cut my lilacs my old ones all the way back down last year to about a foot tall.
Really?
Yeah. And
well, I've got trunks that are 3 and 4 inches on this old lilac, and were your trunks like that?
I cut them back to about a foot, and I've cleaned them up once because they're really growing a lot of suckers right now. So I cleaned them up once, and I need to do that again this fall and just clean them up and get them growing again. But I read a book by Hulda Clagger, who's got the lilac garden. Yeah, and in that book, she said you can cut lilacs all the way back. So I thought, okay, we'll try it.
I need to try that because this thing is outrageously, it's tall.
Well, I had 2 of them, and I cut them back down to like a foot high.
Wow. So, good to know. Thank you.
I have 2 rookie questions here. The first one, when you were talking about dividing plants, you said no more than 25% of the original clump. Does that mean cut it into 4 pieces, 25% each, or divide only 25% of the original plant clump?
I believe that's 25% of the original plant. Let me see if I can find that note in here and let you know, or maybe Alice can answer that question. I don't know. I don't know where
I think they're assuming that you have dug out the clump and that you're dividing the whole thing into 4 and then making 4 plants from it. I think that's what that comment that,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And then I have one more question that I did not catch. When did you say to divide the food clumps like raspberries, strawberries, etc.?
Dividing those in, I believe those are all in the fall.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, LaDonna,
Yeah,
that that lilac you were talking about
yes,
that you never get suckers from,
right.
can you take cuttings from that? Have you ever tried taking cuttings and propagating that way?
I haven't tried that. I will.
That might be a way that you can get that plant to grow again too, is take cuttings from it.
Okay. Thanks,
I-
Ed.
I put a link up there on how to propagate in the chat about how to propagate lilacs. That you can do it with layering and cutting and grafting and seeds.
Thanks, Alice.
You're welcome.
I have a question about the perennial. Now, I guess I take part of it off after it's bloomed and it's died down, or do I do it before it blooms?
What type of perennial? I mean, do you know what it?
I have all different kinds in my yard. So I have a lot that come up during the fall. I have a lot that come up during the spring. So I'm wanting to transplant them all around different spots in my yard.
Well, I guess I would determine what kind of root it has, what type of root, whether it's a clumping, or are they rhizomes or tubers or bulbs, you know.
Most of them aren't bulbs. I believe they're just clumping. A lot of them are, I don't even know because I haven't pulled them up. We bought the house and they were there.
Uh-huh.
So I've just been afraid to do anything and kill any of them.
I would probably do them in the fall, and I don't know what kind of plants they are either. So, I mean, I would, if you pull up the websites, especially the one on the WSU website, that's the one. It's got like 3 pages of different types of plants and whether to do them in the spring, the summer, the fall, you know, clumps, spreads, those kinds of things. And it's got a lot of more information on there too.
Okay.
Hey, LaDonna,
And
Yeah.
here's it.
yeah, there was a question from Gary that was asking about the clumps. Hello?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that 25%, when you dig the whole clump out, is, as I think Alice stated it, you don't want to go any smaller than 20 to 25%
Of the original plant.
of the original plant, correct.
Right.
So if you dig the whole plant out, you can basically go 5 to 4. You can either get 4 or 5 plants out of the clump,
Okay.
depending on how it says no smaller than 20%, and between 20 and 25% is what it says from the site from Washington State University.
Okay. From the original plant, you do that and then split
Correct.
it up you split the 25% up.
Correct. So out of the clump that you dug out, you can break that clump into 4 plants, basically 25% each.
Thanks for checking, Art.
Oh, no worries.
This is Jackie. I'm wondering if you if the master gardeners ever have like an exchange. Cookie exchange is what I'm thinking of. But like if there was a time of the year like the fall when everybody digs things up where they or do you have a sale or something like, you know, so that
Jackie, we're working on that. We're probably going to be having a sale of fall things you can plant in the fall in the second week of October, but we'll be talking about that at one of the meetings real soon.
okay. Yeah, thank you.
Won't that be late to start to plant something in October because the frost will be coming?
It's actually the perfect time to plant because your soil's warm, you won't have much in the way of bugs to irritate them, and they'll have all winter to set their roots out, so come spring they'll be ready to go.
Oh,
It's the best time to transplant stuff.
Yes.
so will there be a recording of this? Because I didn't realize, I wrote it in the chat, that you know, I've been to so many Zooms, like hundreds of them, and I never had to set an account for myself before, so I missed the whole first half of this. So will there be a recording of this that I can go back to and watch?
There is. Send me an email, garyf@wsu.edu, and just say Dividing Perennials recording. Usually it's available about 2 hours after we're done. So if you send it this afternoon, I'll have it to you by the time I leave work today.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. And anybody wants that recording, just send me an email. I'll send the recording to you.
Isn't Alice putting all those on that page?
If I get them, I am.
Oh, if you get them, okay, because man, that's a beautiful site, Alice. Just gorgeous.
Well, let me share it on the chat so people can see it, because all of our past presentations are there.
Because I lose everything on my computer too, but now there's one place. There they are. Hallelujah.
And
Awesome to have the site. Yeah.
here's all of our previous presentations over in the chat.
Yep.
Perfect. I'm going to copy that.
Anybody have a bunch of peonies? I remember those from when I was a child. They were so beautiful.
So other questions?
I have a comment about Jackie.
We'll hang around for a minute or so if you have questions. Don't forget, seed saving is Thursday night at 6 o'clock. And next week, I've got to look at my cheat sheet here. Next week is
Forcing bulbs
you have for Christmas gifts. So if those are interested in you, please call in. Have a great week. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
LaDonna.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Hey, Jackie.
Great
Yeah.
job, LaDonna.
Thanks, Art.
Yeah, Art.
This is Roman for Jackie about
Yeah.
your big clump of grass. That big clump of grass, I've moved things this way. Dig all around it,
Yeah.
put a rope around it, and haul it out with a 4x4 or a tractor. I have done this. You might have to reposition the rope and get it down low as possible.
The number? Oh, it'll be on the email.
Oh, I love that. Think my little
And
garden tractor will do it?
I don't know how big the clump is, but the bigger the vehicle, the better. I've done it a few times. But then be prepared, take an axe to it, and have places to put the
Yeah.
cuttings. That's all. That's how.
That's
That
easy.
sounds
No
good.
lifting.
I have a friend that would love that challenge. He'd come with 3 bottles and
Yeah, well, don't pour any on the grass, but sometimes the rope slips and you have to get the rope underneath the beginning of the roots when it started to tip out of the ground. But it can be
actually
done.
he has a winch on his vehicle. I bet that would work.
Perfect, perfect,
Oh,
perfect.
thank you.
Jackie, you can point, you can be the pointer and say, I want that one out. And
I'm
let your
keeping
friend-
my distance. I know how to be safe. He can, yeah. Yeah, no, I'll have a meal for him. When it's done, he can have his evening's entertainment all by himself. Yeah, that's.
I have a question for LaDonna.
Yes.
Yeah, hey, I have a friend in San Diego who just got done transplanting some plumeras. They're like a semi-tropical plant. They grow in Hawaii. He moved them when they were in bloom. He had to. And the Plumera Society says just put a little vitamin B1 in a gallon of water, and that eliminates transplant shock. Have you ever heard of such a thing? I never have. I've never read about it or heard about it. Vitamin B1.
I have actually heard that, but I've never done it.
I thought it was something
guy
like
did it.
vitamin.
This guy did it, and he's not a gardener, and he said it worked.
Good. That's good news.
You're on without your
Good to
camera
know.
on because you.
Yeah.
Is it only, I
That
wonder if
could
it's only
be,
on tropical, or is it, I wonder if all plants, if that would help.
Your camera on or off.
Well, I don't know, and he didn't say what amount. He said just a little bit of vitamin B1 in a gallon. I don't know what a little bit is to him, but so
There's
anyway, it's good. If that were more widely known, that would be a good thing.
There is a transplant liquid, and I'm not sure what's in that. I thought there was maybe some vitamin. Maybe that's what we give the alcoholics.
There is,
But
there is a bit of it.
B, huh?
Nothing.
And the vitamin B, yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, I just looked up that vitamin B1. It's a myth. I got the site here for it.
Oh.
Wow, is that right? And my friend got this information from the whatever that plant is, a Plumera Society in California, and they do it. So, wow, a myth.
Yeah, and furniture also causes cancer in California, so it doesn't matter what they say.
Who said it was a myth?
No, I'm actually serious. My grandma got a piece of furniture. There was a tag on it that says, this piece of furniture is known to cause cancer in the state of California.
Everything is. They have that on everything.
So I do have a question about transplanting things. I have a small yew tree in the back that I had in a pot for years, and then I took it out of the pot thinking I was going to plant it, and I just sat it on my lawn, and there it sat for, this is the second year, and it's growing. So, so what kind of root system does that have for me to have to dig it up and maybe get it back into a bigger pot? Because I shouldn't be planting it in my landlord's yard.
I would probably make sure that you soak it and then gently try to break it apart to see what, because it must be just compacted in there if it's still growing. So I would gently do it and make sure that you have a bigger pot prepared for it to go into.
Well, it's not in a pot anymore. It's just been sitting like the big clump of dirt right there.
I know, but you need to, I think you need to soak the clump of dirt in something and then, like I say, gently kind of break it apart and because it's got to be root bound in there. And
No, it's not in the pot. It won't move. It's like in the ground. It's in the ground now.
Right, but it's still, the roots are all clumped together correctly? I mean, correct? Because,
Oh, I see.
yeah.
From when it was in the pot,
From
yeah.
when you took it out of the pot, it's still,
Yeah.
it's still just a big clump in there. So I would gently try to tease it apart and then have a bigger pot already. If that's where you're going to put it, it's in another pot.
Yeah.
Yeah, have that prepared so that you can do it right away.
Is there anything special I should put, like, do I put fertilizer in the pot to, you know, or is it not the time of year to fertilize?
I wouldn't fertilize now. I would just have a mixture of different maybe soils and compost and, you know, something like that to put it in.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
One of the interesting things about fertilizing plants is we think, well, we'll plant this plant and we'll treat it as good as possible. And that's good, but if that plant is a little bit stressed, it works a lot harder to get itself transplanted. So if we give it a lot of fertilizer and all these things, the plant doesn't have to work very hard. And when the fertilizer's gone, it goes, oh, what do I do now? Whereas, I mean, I don't want to mistreat it, but I think sometimes the more we help it, the less we're really helping it out loud. So we think we got to fertilize things, but you don't necessarily have to do that. I think sometimes the plants really struggle. It's just like sending down roots. One of the gentlemen I talked to, he was a forester, and these trees, they were down by this area that used to be wet all the time, and all of a sudden it dried up and the trees didn't do very well. Because they always had the moisture, they didn't send their roots down, and so when things got a little drier, they just couldn't survive. Whereas those that were always stressed for water, they really sent their roots out and down, they tended to survive the drier times.
Oh.
So sometimes abusing plants allows them or forces them to survive a lot harder.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Okay, good.
Hey,
And I
Roman.
do, oops.
Roman.
Yeah, Gary.
Hey, Roman, I put that
Gary.
slide on there. It's the last one. I just posted it for your B1.
Uh-huh. Okay. Thanks. I'll get that to my friend. I never heard of it before, well, actually yesterday.
Hey guys, I'm gonna go ahead and go. I got a lot of stuff to do today.
Okay, take care.
Thanks.
I do have one other question. I just yesterday bought seedling. Yeah, you know, they're already started vegetables. And so I'm wondering about separating them to put them in pots, because when I bought them, they were, what do they call them? They said they didn't put like one seed in each little thing. They just threw them in there. So like there's a bunch of them in each little little container. You know, there's like 6 in a pack.
Mhm.
So should I separate them out? Try to separate them out and like beets. I have beets. I have, or is that, will they even transplant? I guess is probably where I should start.
Yeah, I would probably transplant them, but gently pick them apart. Sometimes when you get seedlings, you take the best of the bunch, but with beets and those kinds of things, I would probably gently take them apart and transplant them. I mean, why not?
Okay. What about carrots? Will carrots transplant? Because I bought them too, and I thought I've never heard of transplanting carrots before. I generally do it by seed, but it's too late for me to start seed. So
Again, I'd probably try it too.
okay.
I don't know why they wouldn't, but
Carrots and parsnips are hard to transplant. Plant the clump and then cut off the ones that are weeds.
oh, okay.
You know.
Okay.
Thin them
I've
out.
never done it, so
Hard to
I
say?
always try those things.
Yeah, you want to thin them out once they're growing.
Yeah.
And instead of pulling them, just cut them so you don't disrupt the ones that are still in the ground.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? With that, we're going to tell everybody goodbye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy your week.
Happy hours tomorrow, right, Gary?